Baseball has seen legends come and go, but only one man carried himself with such grace, such elegance, that he became known simply as the Yankee Clipper. Joe DiMaggio wasn't just a ballplayer, he was an idea, a vision of perfection that America longed for in the turbulent years of the 1930 and 40. He moved across the outfield like a ship gliding through water, his swing sharp and fluid, his presence quiet yet commanding. And then there was the streak. 56 straight games with a hit, a number that still stands untouched more than 8 decades later. Every summer, when a new star strings together a dozen, maybe 20 games in a row, the whispers start. Could this be the one? Could he chase DiMaggio? But every time, the run ends, and the record lives on immovable, immortal. To his teammates, he was the standard of excellence. To his opponents, he was a nightmare cloaked in silence. To a nation at war, he was hope wrapped in pinstripes, proof that even in uncertain times, greatness could be steady and sure. But behind the legend was a man of contradictions. He was adored by millions, yet struggled with loneliness. He was disciplined and stoic, yet his private life was marked by heartbreak. He was the ultimate Yankee, yet his most famous romance was with a Hollywood star who belonged to the world. So who was Joe DiMaggio really? Was he the flawless icon baseball fans remember? Or a man forever chasing something just out of reach? And, more importantly, what made his name echo louder than almost any other in the game's long history? Joe DiMaggio was born on the 25th of November, 1914, in Martinez, California, the son of Italian immigrants who had crossed the ocean in search of a better life. His father, Giuseppe, was a fisherman who believed that every DiMaggio boy should take to the sea. But young Joe hated the smell of fish. He hated the long mornings on the water, the endless labor that seemed to swallow his father's life whole. Instead, he found escape in the dusty lots of San Francisco, where a stick and a ball of tape could carry him farther than any boat. The DiMaggio family was large, 9 children in all, and money was scarce. They lived in tight quarters, the sounds of the wharf always in the air, and the shadow of the Great Depression looming over every dream. Joe wasn't the oldest or the loudest, but he was the quiet one, the one with a calm determination in his eyes. Baseball wasn't just a pastime for him, it was a way out, a chance to be more than another son of a fisherman. From the start, Joe was different. He didn't swing wildly or chase glory. His movements were precise, efficient, almost surgical. Older brothers Vince and Dom also chased baseball, but Joe's swing carried a rhythm that stopped people in their tracks. On neighborhood fields, the other boys might shout and boast, but Joe hardly spoke. He let the bat do the talking. Still, the road wasn't smooth. At age 17, Joe nearly gave it all up. He dropped out of high school, worked odd jobs, and wandered the streets with no real direction. Baseball seemed like a childish dream fading in the face of hard reality. Yet, in those quiet years of uncertainty, something was forming inside him, a hunger that would ignite when the right moment came. For Joe DiMaggio, greatness wasn't inherited, it wasn't guaranteed. It was shaped by the salt air of the docks, by the weight of immigrant expectations, and by the silent promise he made to himself that he would never go back to the boats. The turning point for Joe DiMaggio came not in Yankee Stadium under the bright lights, but on the sandlots and minor league fields of California. In 1932, after drifting through odd jobs and nearly letting baseball slip away, Joe was given a chance with the San Francisco Seals of the Pacific Coast League. At first, he wasn't the shining prospect. His brother Vince had already made it to the majors, and Joe was just the quiet younger sibling trying to prove himself. But then came the streak. In 1933, DiMaggio put together a 61-game hitting streak in the minors. Day after day, the hits piled up until the entire league began to take notice. Scouts whispered his name with reverence. What he did wasn't just talent, it was consistency, a rare kind of perfection that hinted at something far greater. In the midst of the Great Depression, when hope was thin and jobs were scarcer than dreams, the city of San Francisco found pride in a lanky kid who refused to stop hitting. That streak caught the attention of the New York Yankees. In 1934, the team purchased his contract for $25,000 and 5 players, a fortune at the time. But just as fate seemed to open the door, tragedy nearly shut it. Joe suffered a severe knee injury, and whispers began that he might be damaged goods. Would the Yankees back out? Would his career end before it even began? But the Yankees took the gamble. Their scout George Weiss saw something no injury could erase: the elegance of Joe's swing, the steadiness in his eyes, the aura of a natural hitter. By 1936, DiMaggio was in pinstripes, patrolling the outfield alongside Lou Gehrig, stepping into a clubhouse that had once belonged to Babe Ruth. That was the moment Joe DiMaggio's life truly changed. From the son of a fisherman who hated the smell of fish to the newest member of the most famous baseball team in the world, the destiny of the Yankee Clipper had officially begun. By the time Joe DiMaggio stepped onto the field at Yankee Stadium in 1936, the game of baseball was already rich with legends. Babe Ruth had built the house, Lou Gehrig carried its torch, and now a quiet, graceful center fielder was about to redefine what it meant to be great. In his rookie season, DiMaggio hit .323 with 29 home runs and 125 RBIs, instantly proving he was no ordinary newcomer. That year, the Yankees won the World Series, the first of 9 championships Joe would help deliver to New York. What made DiMaggio different wasn't just the numbers, though the numbers alone are staggering. Across 13 seasons, he hit .325, launched 361 home runs, and drove in 1,537 runs. He won 3 MVP awards, was named to the All-Star team every single year of his career, and led the Yankees to a dynasty so dominant that their pinstripes became a symbol of excellence itself. But it was how he played that left fans in awe. His swing was poetry, short, compact, and devastating. Where Ruth had been a thunderclap, DiMaggio was a song, smooth and inevitable. In the outfield, he glided after fly balls with such ease that he often made spectacular plays look routine. Teammates spoke of his calm demeanor, his refusal to showboat. He was the very definition of professionalism. And then came 1941. That summer, as war raged in Europe and America edged closer to conflict, Joe DiMaggio gave the nation a streak that seemed almost supernatural. From May 15 to the 16th of July, he recorded a hit in 56 consecutive games. Day after day, pressure mounting with every at-bat, he delivered. Newspapers tracked his every swing. Fans crowded radios, children clutched scorecards, hoping to witness history. When the streak finally ended in Cleveland, even the opposing fans rose to applaud. It remains the most unbreakable record in baseball, a number whispered with reverence every time a new hitter dares to chase it. DiMaggio's greatness wasn't confined to numbers alone. In 1943, with America deep in World War II, he traded pinstripes for a military uniform, serving his country for 3 full seasons in the U.S. Army Air Forces. By the time he returned to the Yankees in 1946, he had lost prime years of his career, yet still picked up where he left off, hitting, winning, and reminding the country that baseball, like freedom, endured. The late 1940 belonged to DiMaggio. He won MVP in 1947 after batting .315 with 20 home runs and 97 RBIs, carrying the Yankees to another World Series title. He was the face of a franchise that had already been blessed with Ruth and Gehrig, and yet, in his own quiet way, DiMaggio carved out a place beside them. Fans didn't just admire him, they trusted him. In a world of turmoil, he was steady, precise, and unshakable. By the time he retired in 1951, his resume was untouchable. 9 World Series championships, 3 MVPs, 13 All-Star appearances, and a reputation as the player who carried the Yankees from one golden age to the next. Even more than the numbers, it was his aura, his ability to make greatness look inevitable, that defined his peak. For millions of Americans, Joe DiMaggio wasn't just a Yankee, he was a mirror of their own hopes calm in the storm, elegant in victory, and always, always reliable. For all his triumphs in pinstripes, Joe DiMaggio's life was not untouched by shadows. The body that had carried him so elegantly through center field began to betray him early. Chronic heel and ankle injuries nagged at him year after year, grinding away at his speed and his endurance. By the time he was in his mid-30s, the pain was so constant that even simple movements became ordeals. Fans still saw the smooth swing and effortless grace, but behind the curtain, every game demanded more grit than glory. In 1951, at just 36, DiMaggio walked away from the game, retiring far sooner than anyone expected. Off the field, his most famous love story turned into one of his greatest heartbreaks. In 1954, he married Marilyn Monroe, the rising Hollywood star who captured the world's imagination. For 9 months, they were the ultimate American couple, the Yankee Clipper and the blonde bombshell. But the pressures of fame, jealousy, and Monroe's rising career tore them apart. Their marriage ended in divorce, yet Joe never let go. When Marilyn died in 1962, DiMaggio was devastated. For the next 20 years, he had roses delivered to her grave 3 times a week. The quiet stoicism that had defined him on the field became the mask for a deep, private grief. As the years passed, DiMaggio remained an icon, but he lived much of his life in solitude. He avoided the spotlight, rarely gave interviews, and let others debate his legacy. The public saw the legend. His friends knew the loneliness. His crises weren't marked by scandal or disgrace, but by the relentless cost of greatness, the injuries that ended his career, the heartbreak that never healed, and the silence that defined his later years. When Joe DiMaggio played his final game in 1951, he left behind more than numbers and championships. He left behind an idea of baseball at its purest, elegant, consistent, and timeless. In the decades that followed, his name became shorthand for excellence. Parents told their children about him, writers used him as a metaphor for grace. And fans, old and young, measured greatness against the shadow of the Yankee Clipper. The 56-game hitting streak remains the crown jewel of his legend. Every season, when a new player strings together a dozen or 2 consecutive games with a hit, the inevitable comparisons surface. But the chase always ends, the streak always dies, and DiMaggio's record endures. It is not just a number. It is a mountain no one has climbed, the perfect symbol of his place in baseball's pantheon. Yet his legacy reached beyond the diamond. He became a cultural icon, invoked in songs and stories that had little to do with baseball. In 1968, Simon and Garfunkel immortalized him in Mrs. Robinson, asking, "Where have you gone, Joe DiMaggio?" The line captured a nation's nostalgia, a longing for a figure who represented dignity in a changing world. And then there was his love for Marilyn Monroe, a story that bound baseball and Hollywood together in myth. The image of DiMaggio, sending roses to her grave, year after year, became as much a part of his legend as his swing. It revealed the tenderness behind the stoic face, a devotion that outlived fame and survived tragedy. When he passed away in 1999, the tributes poured in. President Bill Clinton called him a national treasure. Teammates remembered him as the quiet anchor of a dynasty. Fans remembered him as the player who made baseball look effortless, the man who carried himself with the same grace in victory and defeat. Joe DiMaggio's story is more than one of a ball player. It is the story of America in the 20th century, an immigrant son who rose to greatness, a soldier who served his country, a gentleman who became a cultural touchstone. His name is etched not only in record books, but in the very identity of the game itself. The streak may never be broken. The legend may never fade. And as long as baseball endures, the question will echo through every ballpark, every generation. Where have you gone, Joe DiMaggio?